Hey folks, welcome to the Packs Behind the Building Block session. I'm Nick and I lead partnerships here at Coda. As you saw in the keynote, there are lots of exciting updates as we move Coda from a pipeline to a platform. First, anyone can make packs with the new Pack Studio. You can sign up at coda.io/packs beta. Second, you can deploy those packs in multiple ways, to a dock, to a workspace, or to a marketplace for packs. And finally, we're funding the next generation of makers with the Maker Fund. You can visit coda.io/makerfund to learn more and apply. In this session, we'll show a few more applications of these new features, talk a bit about the decisions behind them, and then spend some time hearing from you, our valued maker community, on what's interesting to you and answering your questions. We're really hoping for this to be an interactive session, so please ask questions in the chat in Q&A. We want to hear your feedback. We want to learn from you. But to kick us off, I'd like to welcome Eric to the stage to show how quickly you can build a pack.
Thank you, Nick. I am so excited to be here. I've been working on this along with the rest of the team for a number of months now, and it's great to finally be able to show it off to the world. And rather than talk about what packs can do and what you can build, I think let's go and do a demo. Let's walk through it together and show what you can do and how packs will work in the future where everyone can build a pack. So I don't know if this is true for your families, but in my family, business ideas and talking about your crazy business ideas is a pastime. Every birthday, holiday get together, it's like a little mini Shark Tank going on. And one of the ones that's been bopping around my head is I got a cousin Lola, and she runs a catering business in Toronto. And I think we could take some of my Nana's old recipes and try to spin those into something. And so as kind of an October project, I said, let's get those recipe books out of the dusty bin of cards, digitize them, put them in a Coda doc, and I'm just going to try cooking every one and see which of these I think can be a winner. And maybe I can sell my cousin on going into business together. With her experience of baking and running a kitchen and my, I guess, love of cookies, I think it's an unbeatable force. So to get started here, I put together a doc to track the kind of progress I'm going to go for all of these recipes. And so I've got a long hit list of recipes I want to burn through. And first up are her butter pecan cookies. Those always bring back great recipes. And so I put great memories, and I put it right at the top of my list. So yeah, the first step was obviously just transcribing. I took what she had written down, handwritten on those cards, and I put it into a Coda doc in a series of tables. Now, I'd done this recipe. I followed the directions. It didn't come out quite tasting the way I remembered. And I think part of it is that she used her own Nana special measurements of a pinch of salt and a handful of chopped pecans. And those are going to be a little bit different for everyone. And so I did some experimentation. I baked a couple batches, and I think I got it dialed in quite right. And I know how to translate from her unique measurements into something more standard. Now in Coda, I could go through and say, okay, I'm going to have a column I'm going to track here, and I'm going to do this replacement so I can actually remember it every time, so I'm sure I'm going to forget. And so I'll add a formula here. Let's say I'm going to take the ingredient, and I'm going to do some substitution. So I'm going to substitute every time I see a pinch of, I'm going to replace that with 1/6 of a teaspoon. And every time I see a handful of, I think that's probably dialed in about 3/4 of a cup. So you can see here, I've got a new column that just takes the Nana measurements and converts them for me. But I'm going to be doing dozens of recipes, and I'm probably going to find more and more of these little tweaks as I go. It'd be nice if I didn't have to kind of move this formula along with me everywhere I went. It'd be great if it was something that was just built right into my Coda experience. And I think that's where packs come into play. I can take what is something that I know and I use and kind of bake it into the Coda experience so that I can use it in this doc, on any page, as well as any other doc. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to open up a new window here to Coda. And alongside of all of the information you're used to, you'll see a new entry here for packs. This is where I can go to access the Pack Studio to build my own pack. So to build a pack, it's as easy as building a doc. I just click the new pack button, and I'm immediately launched into an in-browser experience for building a pack. I didn't have to download anything, install anything, run any magical commands. I just click a button, and I'm off to build my new pack. Now, every blank pack starts out with a little bit of sample code to give you kind of the structure in case you forget. What we're looking at here is JavaScript code. So if you've ever built a website in GeoCities or done any sort of JavaScript on the web, this is going to be the same basic language that you're used to. And if you don't know JavaScript, it's actually one of the most easy to learn, popular, strongest community languages out there. And so we really think that it's going to be accessible for a lot of people. To make it even more accessible, we've actually made it so that you don't even have to remember all of this gobbledygook. You can actually use slash commands the same way you would use in a Coda doc to access templates for how you build things in a pack. So in this case, I'm going to add a string formula. That's a formula that converts from something to a string. I'm going to call this function convert. It's going to convert from Nana's recipes, ingredient measurements to my own. And it's going to take in an ingredient as a parameter. And I'm just going to name my variable ingredient here to keep it the same. And what I'm going to do down here is take that same logic I'm currently doing in Coda formula language and turn it into JavaScript. Now, luckily, they're not that different. So if I head back over here to my formula, I can take these substitution lines. I'm going to copy those out of Coda, and I'm going to paste them here. So I want to return the original ingredient. And then instead of doing a bunch of substitute, it has a different name in JavaScript. It's called replace. So I'll just change this from a replace to a replace. So same basic thing I was doing in Coda formula language, but now it's just written in the JavaScript syntax. Everything else here I can kind of just leave as default. And I can start building a version. So in the background, this is taking my code, bundling it up, compiling it, doing all the configuration necessary to have that pack go live. In the meantime, I'm just going to work on improving my name and listing a little bit. So you can see my pack is ready. I'm just going to give this pack a nice little title. I'm going to call it the Nana Pack for working with Nana's recipes. And I can upload my own custom icon. So I have saved a picture of her right here, and I'm going to click Save on that. So with packs, it's not just custom code. You can actually add your own branding, icons, descriptions to make it very user-friendly. All right, so I built my pack. I've added the listing. Let's go back to my doc to see what that looks like. So here in the doc, I've had this previous column I've used Coda formula language for. I'm going to delete that now. I don't need it. Instead, I'm going to go explore packs. And alongside all of the packs that come bundled with Coda, I now have my own Nana pack sitting right there. It's going to show me some more information about what's available. In this case, just one formula. I click the install button to install. And now I have a new convert formula available in my doc alongside every other formula in the Coda formula language. So now to rebuild this column using my pack, I'll say the converted column is going to be equal to the Nana pack. And you can see it shows up there in my list of formulas. Convert, and it's going to take in the ingredient column. When I hit enter, it is now running that code that I just wrote on Coda's servers. I don't have to buy any servers or set anything up, and it's giving me back the same results I had before. But now I can use this same formula on every page without having to remember to copy all the different pieces. And if I ever figure out a new translation, turns out that a dash meant something else very specific, I can edit my pack, hit build again, and all of a sudden it's updated everywhere. So this is great. This is you building a pack from scratch. And I think this solved a real use case for me in this doc. But the other thing we can do is use packs from others. You can share a pack that you've built to someone else. And in this case, my cousin Lola, she actually has her own pack that she uses to manage things in her kitchen, to kind of be a little helper for her when she's developing recipes. So she shared it with me so I can use it. And what she has in hers, which is great, is a column format. So in the same way Coda can add new formulas, it can also add and extend other building blocks. So now when I'm choosing my column type, instead of the standard types, I also have addition new types in the packs menu down here. I can see Lola's kitchen ingredient column type. So this ingredient column type takes any ingredient and looks up rich information about it from the web so that you can know more about that type of ingredient. And so as her packs runs, it's bringing in this data from outside of Coda and making it available here. So you can see that now that the column format is applied, I get a little chip syntax around every ingredient. It's a little icon and rounded corners. And when you hover over it, you'll see all of the metadata it's brought in. So it's a stick of butter, but now it knows you're going to find that in this aisle, and it's going to have this many calories. And actually, I think this calorie count is going to be important. If I'm going through dozens of recipes in a month, I will need to watch the waistline. And now that this calorie information is here for my pack, I can use it like any other information in my doc. So for instance, I can create a formula right here that says, let's get the sum of the ingredients dot calories and divide that by the 12 cookies in a batch, and I find out it's going to be 175 calories per cookie. So I'm going to have to go easy on those, or maybe bring something to the office. So this is great. Right here, I was able to just, with a couple clicks of applying a new column format, use this pack to get some rich information. But it's not the only thing there. When I hovered, I did also see cost information. And if we're looking at maybe trying to launch a business, it could be important to know the unit economics of every cookie. So with one more click, I am now able to pull out some cost information for each of these ingredients. But this is in US dollars. And as I mentioned, my cousin is in Canada. So it'd be nice if I could show this to her in Canadian dollars, just so it's more of an apples to apples comparison. Well, it just so happens I've been working on my own pack for a different project that does currency conversion. And the nice thing about packs is they're not locked into one doc. I built this pack for a different purpose, but I can reuse it as many times as I need to. So back to my packs menu, you'll see I have a currency converter pack. Similarly, I can do a one-click install. Just to walk you through what that pack looks like, it's not much more code than you just saw on the Nano pack. It's only about 30 lines. It's a couple of parameters to add a formula called convert that uses an external API to pull in data and get the resulting converted amount of money. And so I've already had this pack built and deployed, but now I can use it in this stuff. You'll see it also exposes a formula called convert. And that's what's great about packs. Every pack can have its own formulas, and you don't need to worry about naming. They won't overlap with each other. So let's add one more column here. And this is going to be the cost in loonies. That's what our colleagues up north call their dollar. And I can now use my currency pack and call its convert method. And I'll take in the cost and convert that from US dollars to Canadian dollars. And that's similar to before. It's running that pack in the background on Coda servers to determine the final answer. And the first time you build a pack, it may take a couple seconds for it to spin up on our servers, but after that, it's going to run pretty quickly. So here we go. I now have my final results of how much it's going to cost to do this. And I could obviously do some sums, comparisons, and breakdowns. And this is where I'm going to have to start convincing my cousin that this is a good idea to get in business. But we'll save that for the next holiday. So as you can see, you can get a lot done with packs, either ones you built yourself, got from a friend, or reused from a different project. And really, this currency converter pack, this isn't something so specific. This isn't like Nana's measurements where it's not going to translate. I could really see this pack being used by everyone who uses Coda. And I'm going to hand it over now to Glenn to talk more about what the future is going to look like for publishing packs and sharing them with the world.
Thanks, Eric. My name's Glenn. I'm the product manager on Coda Publishing. So early last year, we launched doc publishing. Let anyone in the world publish the things they create in Coda to the gallery. And the gallery is where thousands and thousands of docs have been published. We've seen templates and apps and rituals and frameworks and guides, and anything really that can be made in a doc has been published to the gallery. And these published docs have been seen by millions of people. It's in fact many people's first experience of Coda is a published doc made by someone like you in the community. So it's been inspiring for us. It's been inspiring for so many people to learn about everyone else's rituals and ways of using Coda. And we want to bring all of that same discovery, flexibility, and power to packs. So packs are going to be in the gallery, the one place to go to find the solutions you need when using Coda. We actually think it's often this combination of a pack and a doc that are going to be really what you need for a solution. And just like with docs, we're going to be featuring some of the very best things from our community. If your pack's getting used by lots of people, it's going to be trending. We're going to be recommending stuff, and you can dive into any of our categories and see the docs and packs that are most relevant to the areas that you work in and the way you use Coda. And on that and discovery, as you'd expect, we'll bring packs into gallery search so you can see them alongside the docs you're looking for. But for the first time, we're going to bring the things that you publish and create into the docs themselves. So as Eric was showing, when you're looking at your packs, you'll see the ones you've created, the ones your teammates have shared. But when you start searching, we'll surface things published to the gallery that match that search. Same applies when you do a / command on the doc itself. What that means is you're only ever a few keystrokes away from an amazing formula or template or integration. And now you're not just pulling from the things Coda creates, but from the thousands of makers that are publishing to the gallery. So we think this will massively increase all of the building blocks you're going to see and have available in Coda. And on creating a marketplace, Shashir mentioned this a bit earlier in the keynote, but he and the other founders of Coda were the ex-leadership of YouTube, and they created one of the largest creator economies in the world. And we want to do the same thing at Coda, build a marketplace where you can build your businesses on top of Coda. And we're going to make it really easy. So when you publish your pack, you can do it for free, but you can also charge for it if you want to make some money. And you'll charge for it based on the amount of makers using it in a workspace. What that means is it's going to scale really nicely from one person that wants to use it to potentially thousands in a big enterprise team. And we'll give you the analytics you need to understand how people are converting, how many people are buying it, how they're trialing it, so you can understand how to make your pack even better. For those of you that maybe aren't going to be making packs but just want to use all these amazing packs, we think these incentives will mean there's even more published packs in the world, but also the packs that wouldn't be able to be given away for free will be supported. So you're going to start seeing packs that might have more costs on the back end now because people can charge for them. You'll get all the building blocks up front that you can see, but if you're not quite ready to buy, you can try out the pack. You get 14 days to try it out in any of your docs to make sure it's got all the templates or formulas, whatever it is that you're looking for from it. And hopefully when you find that it's got everything you need, you can hit subscribe. You'll be buying the pack for your entire workspace, but just based on the makers that you have. Not everyone, not all your editors, not all your viewers. Makes it really easy for everyone to get value from that pack. And if you want to be one of the first people to check all this out, please sign up to the beta at coda.io/packsbeta. We'll be rolling out publishing later this year, and the marketplace will come early next year. Excuse me. I'm going to pass back to Nick now to take us into a Q&A and a quick recap.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. So many exciting updates. I think just to do a quick recap, you can make a pack, sign up at coda.io/packsbeta. You can sign up for our maker fund and actually apply to get funded to build your pack. And we'll have a marketplace coming soon. And so we're eager to get your feedback on ways that you might want to publish and potentially monetize your pack. So you'll find links to a lot of that stuff in your attendee doc as well as the chat. We're now going to move to a Q&A, but please remember to ask questions in chat. We have a few ideas we want to cover, but we'd love to hear from you. There were some great questions in the makerspace that Eric and I got asked. Feel free to ask them again because we have a wider set of folks to cover them and maybe some different thoughts and answers. So please ask questions in chat. But to start, maybe we just quickly have folks introduce themselves, starting with Helena, sorry.
Hey everybody, I'm Helena and I'm the design lead on this project.
Awesome. Alicia?
Hey all, I'm Alicia and I'm the product designer on this project.
And Puneet?
Hi, I'm Puneet. I'm a product manager on Packs and the product lead on this project.
Fantastic. And you already met Eric, Glenn, and myself. So let's kick us off. Obviously, a lot of really cool stuff covered by everyone today. I'd love to just start with how this came to be. Like, what was the idea behind it? What drove this initiative? And Helena, would be curious to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, at Coda, we believe that everybody's a maker, and part of being a maker means that you should be able to solve a problem for yourself. You should be able to build software that solves your need. And so, you know, it's always been kind of core to our ethos. But as Glenn mentioned earlier, last year we built out doc publishing, which was an awesome way for people not to just solve their own problems, but then to share them out with the world and really inspire others. So we really saw an amazing loop happening there. So, you know, the natural next step for after that was packs. You know, packs are an amazing way to solve a problem. And at the time, you know, up until today, we were still building all of them. And so we knew that it's really up to the makers to be able to make their own packs, solve problems for themselves. So yeah, always core to the Coda ethos of, hey, you know, let's empower makers, but the timing was right.
That's awesome. And when I think of packs or integrations, I always think of really complex processes and CLIs and uploading manifests. But with what Eric showed, it's all in the browser. And so I'd love to know Alicia, what inspired the decision to have this take place in the browser? And we hear this term citizen developer. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more and our decision to sort of target those users?
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, Nick, I think citizen developer means different things to different people. And for us, it really came back to some foundational research that we did months and months ago, where we talked to a bunch of makers who had these amazing, incredible ideas for packs. And they had really specific ways that they wanted to use those packs to enable their teams and improve their own docs. And what all of these makers tended to have in common was that they didn't see themselves as developers. They're not people who look at code every day. They wouldn't describe themselves as software engineers. But despite that, they have pretty strong informal knowledge of JavaScript, taken a class once or twice or learned some things on the job. And for us, the citizen developer was someone who can read code, who can understand it, and who can kind of take examples like what you saw in Eric's demo and piece together something new from that. And so in thinking about how we could really empower those folks to build the packs they wanted for their teams, so much of what feels, as you mentioned, scary and intimidating and outside of that is all the stuff around downloading an SDK, setting up a local environment, working with the command line. And so the web browser lets you remove all of that. The focus is just on writing the pack. And so, yes, you're still writing JavaScript for now, but the JavaScript you're writing is directly creating those pack components.
That's super cool. And as somebody who definitely skews more citizen than developer, I appreciate that decision and was really exciting to build my first pack and a few after that. Want to popcorn in a question from the audience, which was that is to ask is code in packs public? And I think that could be interpreted in a couple of ways. Like, is the code that Eric shows available publicly, or is the code that somebody writes in a pack available for other people to see? So maybe we'll start with code examples. Eric, if you don't mind sharing that, and then we can switch to code that's others have written.
Yeah, the code there that I wrote on the fly, that is not public yet today, but we do aim to produce a large sample of packs so that once you are ready to build, we have a lot of different pieces that you can mix and match, pull from, try, see, experiment. I know that how I like to learn is see what other folks have done and then kind of pull out little pieces to go from there. And so we want to make sure that there are a large library of packs available. We've got a bunch sitting around in a half-built state. We're just going to clean them up and get them ready for public consumption. So I think pretty soon you're going to see that pack and many others available to use when you're learning and growing in the packs journey.
Very cool. And maybe on the flip side of if somebody writes pack code, how does that show up in the product, or does it show up at all?
Yeah, today we don't. Hi, I'm on the Packs editor side. We don't actually today have a way to directly share the code out, but we are very supportive of folks who want to take the code for the packs they built and make that available to others. And frankly, we're exploring to see how could we make that even easier. I think we've heard some early feedback from users that they're really excited about having the pack solve their need, but they're also excited about having that pack code out there so others can contribute to it, make it better, and it can enable others to build more solutions to the use cases that those users might have themselves. And so certainly very supportive of the idea of folks who want to share code.
Just on the flip side too, if you're on the opposite camp where you really want to protect your code and make sure no one sees it, you don't have to share your code with someone for them to use the pack. So it's a totally separate. Building the pack and writing the code is one experience. Using the pack is a totally different one, and they do not need to ever look at your code, and it's by default they cannot look at it. So feel free to put in there to do, fix all of this garbage later, and that'll just be visible to you. You don't actually have to worry about anyone else peering at your code if you don't want them to.
Awesome. And just want to again reiterate, ask questions, please. We've got some time and we got a lot of folks to cover. We could talk about anything from the marketplace to the editor to the Maker Fund. So please continue to chime in with questions. Another question from the audience, maybe for Eric. What would it look like if I wanted the pack user to put in their own API keys to the service?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that I like about packs is that we've taken what I think is one of the hardest parts about building any piece of software, which is authentication and authorization and keys and the rest of it. And we've kind of taken that up a level. It's not something you handle in code exactly. Your pack just tells Coda, this is the shape of my keys. These are where I want the keys to go. But Coda does the hard work of presenting to the user, hey, enter your key or click through this dialog to approve access. All of that is handled by the Coda infrastructure, and you don't have to do all of that in code. So if you want to get a key from a user, all you need to do is in your pack code say, please have the user enter a key. That's equivalent. You're writing a little bit of code, one line that says to the Pack's infrastructure, ask the user for a key, and then the Coda doc and the Pack infrastructure will take it away from there. When they do that install, they'll get a sign-in prompt. It'll ask for a key. It'll store it securely. And you as the Pack developer don't need to worry about all of that.
Fantastic. One more from the audience. We know there's cross-doc functionality, but if you didn't want to pull in a table and like put it in a hidden page, is there an easy way to access other Coda tables or other docs within the Packs SDK code?
Yeah, one of the power we have is that we have an API, and packs are fairly different from an API. APIs are about, in our case, super powerful. We're going to support it. We fully back the API. It's a way to bring in data and take it out of docs and then put it into docs sort of externally. Well, if you combine that with packs, which are actual building blocks sitting on the canvas, if you kind of put those together as their own kind of building blocks together, you can actually use it to have a pack that can be backed by a doc that pulls in data, pulls out data. As one example, we actually, during our internal packathon, we have a system for feedback at Coda where you can actually share feedback with colleagues and collect feedback about those on your team to help folks grow. Folks actually built a pack to do that so that you can have a really secure way where you can protect the permissions on that feedback, because often you want that to be private, and that's backed by a doc. And so there's some really powerful combos you can do with that.
Super powerful. And there was another question about self-made packs accessing a doc's data. I think you covered that. So we will kind of consider that answered. But if we didn't get to it in Puneet's answer, let us know in the chat, and we'll try to dive in deeper. This next one I'm excited about because I love folks' opinions. If I don't know how to code, am I out of luck? Maybe let's start with Alicia, since we talked a bit about kind of like the citizen developer and who we built this for.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say, yes, there is still JavaScript involved, but we're doing our best to make that not feel like a crazy amount of coding knowledge necessary. As Puneet mentioned, we ran an internal packathon where we had folks from all over the company building packs, some of whom had never written code before. And we saw 60 plus incredible packs come out of that experience. And so I think that's a great proof point. I'll say on a personal note as well, the last time I did a lot of coding, I was updating my MySpace page. And so I think it does speak to, it takes a minute to kind of think, get your foot back, get your footing. But when you dive into it, we've done our best to give you things like / commands and documentation that can kind of help you along the way. And hopefully those examples can also take a lot of the lift out of it.
Absolutely. And if I might add on, I think it's also okay to say, maybe I'm not going to build this. Our goal is to provide other ways for you to get what you want built. And so that's why we launched the Maker Fund. You can, as a user who maybe doesn't want to write a pack, you can go submit your pack request. There's a link to the pack request doc at the Maker Fund landing page. You can also post in the community about docs or packs that you want built. And so our hope is that makers who do have the time and the ability to go build those things will actually go see your ideas, get inspired, and build them. And we're happy to fund them, especially if it's something that a user is going to use. So if you have a dream pack, but you're not feeling like you want to jump into the editor and write it, still share it with us in those different forums, and we'll try to find somebody to build it. I think that's the beauty of this whole ecosystem that we're building, is that ideas are one side of the marketplace alongside whatever gets built. With that, let's move to the next question from the audience, which is, can packs let developers change the way the data is displayed inside a cell? Maybe even add a new type of chart display. Puneet, is that something you want to jump on?
Yeah. So today we're launching with 4 and soon 5 key features. But in terms of like the Those are formulas, those are tables, those are custom column types, those are buttons, actions, and then soon templates. So in terms of changing the actual data that's displayed in a cell, if this is sort of like visualizations and that, today there are ways of sort of, we've actually had one colleague, David, who created a quick charts pack, which is a way to actually implement a service where you can pass in that data, and then it actually will kind of, as an embed, show that data in a custom visualization. And so there's sort of ways of doing with those current features. Some areas around data visualization. Kind of honest answer is we'd love to do even more. Like the real long-term vision here is, how do you make it so that every building block on Coda can be extended? And we have charts. I think we're all going to admit that like our charts are great, really powerful, and like there are so many different use cases for data visualization, and we're never ever possibly going to be able to cover all of them. What does it look like to enable the community to make the ones that are right for them and then share them with each other? And so that's the longer term vision. And we're launching this here today with the features that we have, because we want to hear how you use this. We're always impressed by what our makers do. And so like, how do folks do it? What are the things that they're like pushing on the edges of this? And then that gives us the clear ask to be like, great, like here are the 5 ways we're going to go improve it in the next year.
I love that. I love that. Another question, this is probably for Eric, since I think I've learned since we've launched this that a good majority of developer relations is answering questions about authentication. Can you build authentication against a pack? For example, use Okta's API or the enterprise Okta pack to require authentication to see data in a column?
That's a great question. I haven't seen someone do it yet, but I think there are some points I can talk to. So number one is that one of the things about Packs and about the Coda doc in general is that what's in the document has to be the same for everyone. So when you have a sync table, you have to choose, I'm syncing this data down from my account, but when it's in the doc, everyone can see it, right? And you can use maybe some filters and the current user formula to try to hide some bits and pieces, but at the end of the day, the data that you pull down into the document is available for everyone that has access to the document. But you can put access in your pack to say, okay, when user A connects to my pack, they can pull down some columns. But when user B connects to my pack, they can pull down maybe a different set. So there is the ability to tailor at the time that they make a connection to your pack what data they have access to. But once it's in the doc, and it's available to everyone who has access to that doc. I'm not too familiar with Okta's exact APIs to know how you would configure and work with them, but I do know that we do have support a wide array of authentication mechanisms, some of the most popular ones like OAuth 2. And so I think it's one of the things that, yeah, let's talk, let's work through it, and let's see if you can build it today, and if not, where we would have to kind of shift or grow the SDK to be able to accommodate that.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate what Eric said, as part of the beta, which you can sign up for at coda.io/packsbeta, we have a really active and engaged community, both of Codans that are working on this, Eric, myself, Alicia, Helena, Glenn, Panit, plus a bunch of the team behind the scenes that's working on it. And so we're very collaborative. So email, Slack, we'll work through you. We'll work through it with you. Eric actually has been offering pair programming hours with folks that are interested to build packs. So something, I've not seen this. I've worked on a lot of ecosystems, this level of hands-on time. So take advantage of it. If you have something like that Okta use case that you're interested in building, but don't know the ins and outs, we are happy to work with you. Often it leads to great feedback for us as we're building the SDK. So great questions coming in, by the way. Really enjoying these, and I think really speaks to some of what we're trying to build here. Another question from the audience: can I use the Packs SDK to connect to internal data sources? This is something we've thought a lot about. Puneet, maybe you could kick us off, but if others have thoughts as well around internal data sources.
Yeah, for sure. Short answer to this is most definitely. I think back to kind of what is the vision for what Packs is trying to solve for. We want to make it so that the building blocks on the canvas reflect the needs of your team, and they truly can extend those to really solve the scenario and ritual that your team has. Internal data sources, if there are firewalls and other things, I think we're trying to figure out what the limitations of those, and we're happy to chat through those. But as a general point, like our full intent is to very much support these sort of internal team use cases. And you can share just to your workspace. I think we've heard folks that don't want to publish. That's totally fine. Like if you just want to share it to your workspace, even just use it in your own personal doc, totally fine, fully supported. And we're here to make that happen for you as well.
Awesome. I'm going to keep moving because we're getting just so many good questions. Thank you in the audience for asking them. Can you create nice documentation that appears when people use your function? I think a few folks could grab this. So, and whoever feels most strongly about nice documentation, feel free to chime in.
I can just get it started, which is to say, in the demo you saw there, I skipped over a bunch of fields that are available when defining a formula. But there are fields like instructions, help text, samples, examples, all of the things that you would find in the Coda formula editor. So when you're in Coda, you're typing your formulas and you get all that help text. Everything that Coda displays for its built-in formulas, you have the same option to fill that in for your custom formulas. And so, yeah, as much effort as you want to put into making a friendly user experience, you can make that experience pretty friendly.
Yep, and what Eric touched on is definitely in the pack experience, but we also have a gallery and listings as well. So Elena, can you share a bit more about that and how folks can include more information about their pack there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the documentation that Eric mentioned that, you would write in the pack editor, as soon as you update your listing, then all of that information is going to flow actually into the listing itself. So that's going to be really awesome because even if you just share your pack with your workspace, you're going to have a really nice listing, not just with your own branding, but with the documentation there as well. And then when you publish, if you want to publish it to the gallery later, right away, people as they're browsing your packs can see the documentation there as well. And then of course, when you're in the doc writing a formula, you see the same documentation there as well. So really it flows throughout the entire experience, and we wanted to make sure you could kind of find it, wherever was most necessary.
Awesome. And one of the things the team at Coda has been working on is guidance on how to keep those listings up to date, how to talk about your pack. And so as part of the process, we'll share with you some best practices and insights on how to keep that updated. Next question, Glenn, for paid packs, any guidance on how much to charge?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we want to let the market decide a bit. I mean, I've been running some of the numbers ourselves on like how big our workspaces are. I think $1 to $5, probably around $3 will be what most people's charge. It's really going to depend on the pack and what it can do. I should also mention we're still going to be letting you sell things outside of our marketplace as well. So if our model doesn't work for you, you can make it your own way and share it however you like. People already do this when they sell their docs. So hopefully we'll learn a bunch from this early beta period, and we'll get a bunch more data and give better guidance on how much to charge for your pack.
Fantastic. Yeah. So another call for the beta, share feedback on what you think is fair pricing or what you're looking to do in terms of monetizing your pack. A great question, one near and dear to my own heart. So maybe I'll take the first pass at it. What is our take on first party versus third party packs? Will we proactively partner with SaaS vendors to help build first party packs? So if you're just joining or you miss intros, I lead partnerships at Coda, which is why this is near and dear to my heart. I think the short answer is we are pretty neutral. We would love to work with first parties. We do it all the time. Many of our packs were built in partnership with some of them. Some of our launch partners like Blossom, Fathom, Tally, they're first parties. They have their own SaaS applications, and they wanted to build a pack to bring their product into Coda and extend what they could do. But there are more popular SaaS applications, like, we had a talk in the Behind the Building Block session about Microsoft Office and an Outlook pack. And that's something that, if I can get Microsoft to build an Outlook pack, that'll be great. But I'm not counting on it. And I'd love for the community to take that on for the folks that, see the Gmail pack and want that to work with Outlook. And we will encourage that. I think generally we don't have any preference over first or third party. Packs can coexist. As I said earlier, meaningful differentiation is important. Like, I think, think about an Outlook pack. You could have one pack that focused on calendaring and scheduling, but you could have another one that maybe is a version of a mail merge in a Coda doc. And those are both Outlook packs, but super different. And so you can have 2 of the same pack, 3 of the same pack in name in the gallery, while still each of those packs doing different things. And finally, I think from a partnership perspective, what Coda can do actually is help bridge the gap between the third parties and the first parties. Like oftentimes, I've had a partner reach out, a third party, you know, maybe an agency, maybe somebody from our Coda community saying, I want to build an Asana pack, but I don't know where to start, or I am having trouble accessing these APIs. We have relationships with Asana. We have relationships with a lot of these kind of first party SaaS providers, and they're all too happy to help us get an integration built. They have APIs, they have teams that are dedicated to making developers successful just like we do. So oftentimes, if you have that idea, we can help bridge the gap. So certainly welcome and encourage third-party packs. Cool, a few more great questions came in. Will the Coda infrastructure handle caching or rate limiting when using third-party APIs? That feels like a good question for Eric.
Yes, I think we need to give a little bit more about where we're going, like longer term and our thinking here. But today there are some settings and screens where you can say, make sure that this, you know, formula only gets run at a certain rate. There's caching built into the formula executions as well as the network request layer. So basically, if you, I think, you know, you don't have to worry necessarily about those details in the simple cases, although it's good to be aware of them if you have very specific use cases. For instance, you get charged for every request. You might want to do the math beforehand when you're figuring out how much you want to charge for a given pack. But Puni, do you want to talk more about, I guess, the philosophy behind that?
Yeah, for sure. So sort of just to kind of come back to this point of like citizen developer versus perhaps hardcore developer, we like fully support like huge ability towards citizen developers. A lot of the things that Eric just described are all possible right within the browser. It's all available right there. There are probably some advanced features though that if you're going to build like the most robust pack, you're going to want to have. And for some of those that are on that other end of the spectrum that are trying to build those really kind of what we might call hardcore developer experiences, we also want to support and enable that. And I think as a general philosophy, our goal here is how can we enable it so you can build a business on Coda? And part of that is, yes, monetization. Part of that is the gallery. But a part of that is also the ability to like build robust packs that you can maintain with strong developer tools. We've heard really positive feedback on things like unit testing that we're looking to build into packs. If you don't know what that is, that's totally fine. No worries, like you don't need to do those. But if you want those and you're excited about that, we also want to make that possible because you can really find that audience that can, potentially in the future, thousands of people who might be using that with time. And so that's sort of what we have, that aspiration to let you have the tools to build a business on Coda.
So cool. Glenn, I'm going to lump together a couple questions on monetization. The first one being, can one monetize a collection of packs? Say you have 3 packs that work together. One might be free and has value, but with a subscription, someone could gain access to all 3. Basically like bundling packs, I think is the general idea. And the second question is every pack going to be paid per user, or could the maker set a one-time fee for the pack instead?
For sure. Well, we do love bundling at Coda, but at launch, we will just be letting you set it up on the kind of subscription basis per pack. I think in the future, we'll look into something like that, especially as we expand the marketplace. It's really early for us. We want to let you sell your docs as well. All kinds of models we want to support, from subscriptions to one-offs. And I think bundling will probably be part of that as well. I expect in the future as well, makers are going to want to get together and bundle their packs together into a collection. How do we deal with all that? So this is really just the beginning, and it's the kind of feedback we're hoping to see once you start getting access and charging for your packs as well. So super excited to see more of these sort of comments.
Awesome. Next question was around the Maker Fund. How much funding will we provide per project in the Maker Fund? It's a great question. We don't have a specific number. I think the funding will depend on things like the complexity of what you're aiming to build, how much customer demand there is for it, how quickly you can kind of execute on it, as well as how you intend to use the funding. Because I think part of it is we hope that the funding will we know that people are already building great stuff in Coda, and we don't think that this fund was necessary to get great docs or packs built. But what we want with this fund is to incentivize somebody to think they could build something that could be valuable to an audience, and then feel incentivized to kind of grow that audience, maintain it, and grow it. And so with the Maker Fund, we'll ask you, how do you want to use this funding? What are ways that you, with some additional revenue, could maybe market the pack? Maybe you buy ads. Maybe you host a live stream of you using the pack. Maybe you use it to just offset some development resources. Maybe you fund user research. So we love ideas that are packs and docs and very Coda-centric, but also business plans almost of like, with this revenue, what could you do differently? Knowing that, folks are probably publishing docs and building packs as it is. So the amount of funding will kind of depend on that. And so I encourage you to apply it for what it is. It doesn't take a ton of time to apply. The link is in the chat, as well as your attendee doc, and get in touch with us. And, before we greenlight anything, we'll let you know how much funding we're able to allocate towards it. And we don't want anybody to start building without having a sense of what they could get out of the Maker Fund. So I just encourage you to apply, and we can talk through, based on what your submission is, how much funding we will allocate. Moving through questions, is there a Coda QA process for packs that are not built by Coda employees that are up to be purchased? In other words, how do I know the pack that's in the gallery, is working, is what it says it is, those types of things? Perhaps a question for Helena or Glenn.
Sure, I can take it. So you are able to publish just like with docs. It goes straight into the gallery. It's part of why we have the trial system, so you can always check out a pack before you buy it, make sure it's working in the way you want and the way it's intended. We're trying to keep that balance between curation and reviewing, but also making it really easy to publish stuff. So it's something that we're kind of finding the balance on as we go forward. But at first, we're trying to make it as frictionless as possible. So we'll see how that goes, and please do give us feedback. But yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Fantastic. We won't be able to get to every question here because just in the limits of time, I want to focus on a couple more questions around how we got here, what drove some of the decision-making process, as well as what this team's excited about. So I'll maybe go to one last question from the audience, which I think is really interesting, is how do we think about supporting these integrations for customers, and what should partners that are building integrations or packs that could be used by customers be thinking about? And that one, maybe Puneet, kick us off, and if others have opinions as well, would love to hear them.
Yeah, for sure. I think coming back to this point of how can you build a business doing this, but also like how do we really truly enable the doc makers to really get a really positive experience with packs. We're looking at this model around support, and I would actually expand this from just integration to just packs more broadly. Again, these being sort of our extension platform as we grow. And so I think that we are looking for ways to how do we be able to channel feedback from users to pack makers. How do we actually connect those two at the right moments as needed, but also not make that too much of a burden on the pack maker side by actually ourselves and our support team, which frankly is quite good to be able to provide that as a service with time to our pack makers. While on the flip side, making that a service to our doc makers as well. How do you actually allow folks to be able to learn how to use packs, find the right pack, connect to the right pack? And so our hope is that support actually, just as it has been with the core product, can be a way to make packs become an even better experience for doc makers, for pack makers.
Fantastic. And we're going to move to kind of closing. We've got about 5 minutes left. So before I ask my sort of last question to the group, just want to say one more time, coda.io/packs beta. It's in the chat. And you can go there and sign up for the beta and learn a bit more about packs, as well as coda.io/makerfund, where you can apply, learn a bit more about the Maker Fund, see some examples, and apply. And then lastly, the community.coda.io. You can ask questions about this stuff. All of us are there. You can also kind of workshop ideas for packs and things that you might want to submit to the Makers Fund. Maker Fund, we've seen folks post, hey, if I built this, would you use it? And try to kind of drum up support that way. It's a really, really cool idea. But I'd love to kind of close with what folks' favorite packs are and kind of why and what they're excited about. So maybe we'll go around the room. Let's start with Glenn.
I'm going to plug a pack that Helena and another Code and Carlo built during the Packathon, the Cards pack. It's like a really simple pack from the user point of view. Like you put some text and numbers in, generates a beautiful card for you, combined with all the canvas stuff we saw from the other teams earlier. It's just like a really nice way of making your docs look even more beautiful, and it's super easy to use. And so I love seeing those kind of packs that just aren't about integrations, aren't about streaming data in, they're just about making great looking docs.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that was such a cool pack too. Helena, how about you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So yeah, I think the type of packs that I'm super excited about are, packs that are going to be super useful to teams. So one use case we're thinking a lot about is, how can you connect to a database that's not on Coda, but it's also not like in one of the super big players. So just this week, I was talking to a maker in Ecuador who was saying that he keeps his accounting software and, like an Ecuadorian accounting service. That's a pack that we, would have never made. But now, because that, that service has an API, that's so awesome. That team can build it or work with that, the team of that software to build a pack. So I'm super excited about those cases where like you're mostly working in Coda, but sure, you have a database somewhere else. Now you can just quickly connect to it.
Yeah, I love that. I get super excited by things that like could not exist without something like this. So it's super cool. Alicia, how about you?
Yeah, I've been super excited about some of the packs that we've seen that have different kinds of rich visual output. So looking on maybe some of the more complex ends, we've seen packs that have manipulated images and also packs that have drawn SVGs. So one in particular we saw in the Packathon draws different progress bars, which I love because it's something so versatile and applicable to so many different use cases. But I think it also really hints at the power of all the different things that you might actually want to draw with things like SVGs as output or even HTML.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I know our community has previously built SVG Coda docs, but now you can turn that into a pack and make it much easier to install and share across different workspaces. So for those of you that have built something that does SVG visualizations, packs are a great place to rebuild that. Eric, how about you?
Yeah, one of the packs I saw that came out of our internal Packathon was a YouTube analytics pack. And this is my favorite for two reasons. One, I love the idea of taking the other major tools that you use in your job or in the workspace and bringing them all into the Coda environment. And for our social team, the data that lives in YouTube is really important and critical to what they do. But the second reason was that it was built by our social media manager, Brian. And I got to see firsthand the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building his first pack. But he stuck with it. And when you actually finally fix that last bug and the stuff pops into the doc, like the moment of joy is so palpable. And it really, for someone who's written code for years, I still got chills just watching someone else have that moment and see their hard work come to life. And so for me, that pack was special on two different fronts.
I love that. Yes, I saw mostly the tears from Brian during that process. So I'm glad you got to see the smiles as well. Puneet.
Yeah, I mean, I love all of the packs that folks have mentioned. I think there's incredible power in what packs can do. But on the other end of the spectrum, I think one pack that got me really excited was we hear from a lot of users like just real deep desire of how to customize how everything from just data shows up in the column in a table. Sounds super simple, but if you see a phone number that's 5 to 10 digits right there versus sort of with the nice parentheses and the dash, it makes a difference. And one colleague, actually, Nathan, he put together a pack that you just type in those numbers. It nicely formats it right there as a as a phone number, and it just makes it super simple to just instantly have a beautiful table with phone number data. And I love that, like simple, no API, like truly leans into this idea of packs or extensions as an idea.
Yeah, super cool. And I'll go last. You know, like it's like picking a favorite child. Every pack gets me excited. But I love ones where people can build a business around them. So you saw Connor from Super Synchronous during the keynote, and their work with clients, and clients come to them with needs. And a lot of times, you know, in the past, that's been building docs for those clients, but now they're also building packs. So the fact that folks are out there building a real business around what's possible with Coda, how they can extend Coda, how they can take building blocks from Coda and translate other third parties or formulas or templates and build things, and then, you know, ultimately make a real business. People are, you know, their full-time job is building in Coda, and that's the coolest thing to me from a partnerships perspective. So I think that's it for us. We're at time. Thanks so much for joining and asking really great questions. Again, coda.io/packsbeta, coda.io/makerfund for more information on what we talked about, and lastly, the community as well. But appreciate your time, and thanks everyone from the panel, Helena, Alicia, Puneet, Eric, and we lost Glenn somewhere along the way, but no, he was super happy to be here as well. Thanks everyone.